Up on that story now, a 2009 report by the University of Cape Town Children's Institute revealed that child homicide in South Africa was more than twice the global average. And when it comes to crime against children, more boys were murdered than girls in 2018. To discuss this further now, we joined in studio by the Operations Director at Women and Men Against Child Abuse, Vincentia Dlamini. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Afternoon, and thank you for having me.
What a week it's been in South Africa.
Sure, yeah.
The anxiety is all over. I was saying to Peter earlier on that we're overwhelmed now, and you and I were having this discussion of air that almost everything has been done, if not everything. What do we do now next?
We've done everything in our power. We've challenged legislation as organizations. We've marched. We were sitting in Pretoria as we speak for the Dross case. We've actually exhausted all avenues. We've cried out loud to the politicians. We've garnered support from the public. We've garnered support from the media. And I think we are getting to a point where we are tired of talking. We are tired of promises. We are tired of getting speeches from the president. We just want action, and that's one thing that we need as an as a society, is that abusers must stop abusing and murderers must stop killing. That's all we need, and that is the only solution. If murderers stop killing, and that's all that we need. If rapists stop raping, then we've got the solution.
I had a guest in studio yesterday from the steering committee in the presidency looking at this gender-based violence scourge, and she was basically saying the same thing, that the women have done everything in their power to try to stop the scourge. Now the ball is in the guys' court. The men should take it upon themselves and do something. And the question is, are they really willing to?
I think we've spoken a lot about men not taking their friends to task about the conversations that you have. Conversations about she cheated on you, she deserved it, and instead of conversations about you deserve a better loving, woman, why don't you leave her and go to the next woman? It's like there's a lot of justification for the behavior of the abusers, and I think there is just no excuse. And I think we've been saying this. I think each and every campaign comes with hashtag no excuse, and it is really up to the men to protect our women and children.
Let's just look into the story that broke this morning in Mpumalanga. A 24-year-old in Mpumalanga mother who has been found guilty of killing her 4 children. In KwaZulu-Natal just last week, a father killed his 4 children as well. What drives parents to such extremes?
Okay, the question is how do they kill these children? They kill them because they're accessible to them at any time, and people are always talking about children need to be careful about strangers, but the reality is our children are falling victims to the ones that are closer to them. It's biological parents, step parents, uncles, or whoever, but we know that a lot of our children, and the reason for this is because there's a lot of gaps about dealing with mental issues, access to mental health facilities where people need to deal with their mental issues, because we know that some parents are not fit to take care of their children. We talk about social workers that are not removing children when they're entrusted and when they are given that responsibility to say you need to do proper investigation. We look at neighbors that are quiet. As an organization, we're currently challenging Section 110 of the Children's Act, which only puts the responsibility to report abuse, child abuse, to a certain number of people, like your professional, your police officers, your traditional leaders, but ordinary citizens are just left to say at your discretion. So for example, if my sister is abusing her child, I don't have a legal obligation to report. Those are the things that we are challenging, to say everybody, every adult needs to be a custodian of our children, because we need to protect our children. But having said that, we go back to that. Are these measures that is the legislation enough to stop people from killing our children? It's not enough. But we need to pump in a lot of resources. The loopholes, like I have mentioned. Somebody's abusing their children, you're keeping quiet.
You can't say anything.
Yes. Yeah. We know that there's access to family planning, because some parents, they dump their newborn babies because they do not want them. and access to services, friendly services, antenatal, services for them. Like I've mentioned, mental health services. I've mentioned social workers that are equipped, a lot of training, supervision, proper supervision, screening of people, and our children are just being failed. So we need all, money pumped into even civil society organizations, non-profit organizations that are doing this work so that they can be able. We've seen a lot of child welfare closing down their branches because they cannot afford. And child welfare has been, also entrusted with statutory powers to go and remove children that are at risk. So if we don't have the budget for that, we don't have capacity, we don't have the laws that are forcing people to do it, we don't have primary prevention programs where we are going to educate young mothers, because a lot of young mothers are the ones that are killing their children, and a lot of young mothers are the ones that are going to be in unhealthy relationships with men that are going to abuse them and also disempower them, and as a result our children are falling at the hands of those.
Now you talk about education, it brings me to my next question. We recently observed the Child Protection Week. How effective are the messages and the campaigns that go hand in hand with such weeks? Are they really yielding the results?
We've been having these campaigns. Yeah. We've been having 16 days of activism against no violence, Child Protection Week, and people have been getting free t-shirts, pamphlets and all that. Those have actually not been proven to do anything. We want the government to give money to where money needs to be given, for those primary prevention programs, for those mental health care institutions, because how do we expect somebody who's just had postpartum depression to be able to take care of their children? They can't. The woman has just gotten a baby and they've lost their mind because they couldn't cope and they're going to kill their child. So we want services to be provided to the communities.
So what do the statistics say? Is child homicide well documented in South Africa? Do we have the exact numbers, or is it just estimations?
With all numbers, we know that it's the ones that we know about. We know that I think the latest were like 1,000 children are being killed, but we know that other children have not been properly documented.
Yeah. And some go unreported as well.
Same, yes, because we see a lot of healthcare professionals not really documenting exactly, because these children are presenting at our emergency rooms, and if a mother says my child has fallen off the cord, and a healthcare worker doesn't really open real investigations into those, and so that the proper investigation could be done on the reasons why the child died. Sometimes the children are not going to die immediately after the incident, but later on children are going to die because of the complications that arose from the abuse suffered at the hands of the ones that are trusted to be their caregivers. So we know that a lot of our children are not, and a lot of our dead children are not documented.
So what do you think needs to be done to highlight child homicide on its own?
It's a tough one, but I'm saying as organizations, as everyone, as individuals, as educators, and I think the fact that you are going to be at a daycare center and you can see something is wrong, you're quiet about it, then you are part of the program. So we speak out when we see it, when we suspect it, we report it. We've got a legal obligation as a healthcare worker, do it. Police officers open cases. Social workers do necessary investigations. The presiding officers need to be to impose harsher sentences, to serve as a deterrent, to say that you do the crime, you actually serve the time. That is, because you find sometimes that people are going to be let loose with ridiculous sentences, suspended sentences for such crimes.
All right. So I suppose it's just a matter of each member of society taking up their place. Exactly. And making sure that they play their part.
They play their part. That is why even ordinary citizens, they should know that they have a responsibility. If a child comes running to your house and tells you that my father has done this or my sister has done this, you have that legal obligation. And if you fail to, then obviously repercussions need to be.
All right. And your take on the Tross rape case, quickly? Admitting guilt?
Okay. Admitting guilt, there was no way he could deny it. Yeah. So the fact that he's admitting guilt doesn't mean that he feels that it doesn't mean that he is remorseful. And I think that during trial, when they go and they're going to use it as a mitigating factor to say he's done away with wasting time for the state and all that nonsense, but we know that he's not remorseful. The fact that he admitted to there was a lot of evidence, and we hope that he's going to get life sentence without any parole. One less child abuser, and the safer the place.
The safer the place, indeed. Vincentia, we'll leave it at this. Thank you so much for coming through.
It's a pleasure.
All right, well, there you have it. That is Vincentia Dlamini. She is Operations Director at Women and Men Against Child Abuse, really reflecting on a number of issues, a number of stories, a number of violence against children and women that we have seen in recent days here in South Africa. Peter?